All right. What I wanted to show you guys real quick was what the experience is like creating a Kubernetes cluster. By the way, if anybody's familiar with Terraform, we have a fully documented Terraform provider to orchestrate what I'm about to show you that you can just leverage yourself and contribute to if you'd like. So let me go back to, so this is my NKS environment, completely vanilla. It's using my Gmail account, so you know there's no NetApp hacks going on here. It is our data center dude organization, right? This is all tied to my, my personal account. NKS is cool to me, and what I first recognized about it immediately when I first saw it was the attention to detail for the enterprise. One of the first things that's usually glossed over or put in later is RBAC when you're building something for the enterprise, especially if you're not used to building things for the enterprise. But the ability to build in members, teams, and workspaces directly into the platform gives you the ability to make things workspace specific. So if teams are people and workspaces are resources, such as clusters or projects, you can then drive who can do what to what based on a membership of a team, right? Where does that really come into practice? Well, when you go to the setup screen and you have to one time set up your credentials for AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. If I want to make this credential workspace specific so that only a certain team can get into it, or only the team can only access these clusters, I can do that, right? I can completely design this however I want to. I can even use different AWS credentials for different organizations, different workspaces. So you can really design this to be split off and multi-tenant as you want it to be. So who's created a Kubernetes cluster before, regardless of the platform? All right. Anybody done Kelsey's hard way?
I've just done it natively.
Okay. You just went to the Kubernetes IO and downloaded the binary? Bigger man than me. I like this way. So after you put in that credential and you store it, what can we do with it then? Well, we want to give you a three-step wizard. We're going to say, what provider do you want to use? What virtual hardware do you want your nodes to be? And any virtual networking that might apply. And what software do you want to layer on top of it? And Enrico, this goes back to one of your questions about like the philosophical differences between like an OpenShift and a Pivotal that might be more downstream, or whereas upstream we're just orchestrating down, right? So because we're upstream, it gives us a few fancy whiz bangs that we can do. One, we can just give you an inventory. Because of that credential that I have in there for AWS, you can see that it's just populating my credentials, my networks down there. And because we're geolocated, maybe I don't want to live. I want to go to the new East region. That's fine. Oh boy, do we have networking issues? No. Okay, good. There it is. So maybe I want to be in a different availability zone. I'll put 2C. We discover VPCs. They're all torn down right now, so we'll just create a new one right here from the UI. And to go with that, we'll create a brand new subnet as well, right? In addition, we always start with one master node so that we can always grow that. I think up to 9 is what we're up to right at this point. But we can also spin up 10 worker nodes at the instantiation. We can set the size for each of these, and these are going to be EBS disks under the covers. I'll come back to that in just a second. But we can also choose the instance type that we want right here within the interface. So I'm in AWS, so I can do T2 micros, or I can go all the way up to some P2 larges, P2X larges if I want to run some GPUs. All of it works, right? So we'll save the old credit card bill here so I don't get yelled at too much. We'll do some little T2 mediums, and we'll hit save. All right, cool. What else can we do? Again, workspace specific. If I wanted to design this out, I can, in the process of building this cluster, I can designate it to a specific workspace, right? If I want to enable GPUs, I can just toggle that on right here, and you'll see it automatically changes it to a P2X large there on the left that we're going to provision, right? But we don't want to do that because that's very expensive and I'll get yelled at. We also can pick a credential if we've got multiples that we're going to provision this with. We can also pick from multiple SSH key pairs if we want to segregate that and make it workspace specific as well. So there's our hardware. Now let's talk about our software. We give it a fun name, little oxymoron RNG stuff going on here. Let's just do Nick Tech Field Day Demo so you guys know it's real. And then we'll automatically set a lot of this stuff. We're going to install the dashboard. We'll set up RBAC. But hang on, we can do 116 already? Wow. So that's interesting because most of the cloud providers are still stuck on 113 and 114. Okay. Benefits of being upstream. We don't modify the Kubernetes binaries at all. We're downloading it from Kubernetes.io the same way everybody else does, and they get put in. The beauty of this is that when you go in, you can choose, let's do 115.5. That's fine, I can choose that. You see all my information over there, and hey, I can even run different versions of Ubuntu if I want to. Not only this, let's kick this off. So there we go, great. I've provisioned a Kubernetes cluster, I go have a sandwich, right? Come on, there we go. Ta-da, right? In addition to doing that with AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud, now we also have the binaries available and the functionality available to do this on our FlexPod platform, our NetApp HCI platform, and just vanilla VMware. So if you've got HP servers running other vendor storage underneath it, fantastic. If you got vSphere, cool. We just need the VMs to act as master and worker nodes. And we're just going to interface directly with VMware. But the experience is exactly the same.
So I have to ask it now.
Yeah.
So what will happen when they release Project Pacific? Is there going to be any conflict there with this?
I promise we can have a much better conversation about that when we're not live streaming to the internet.
Okay. Sounds good.
Can we take a rain check on that one?
Just using VMs here to drop the Kubernetes instances into, and Pacific will do something orthogonal.
So what does VMware have access to that nobody else has access to? The ESX kernel. They can do some different stuff.
Yeah, we should talk offline so I
Yes.
can probably. Yeah.
So because of that functionality and that capability, they're not building, so we can plug into the vCenter APIs essentially and spin up virtual machines. The same way we do EC2 in AWS, we can spin up virtual machines to be those master and worker nodes, and we can group them all using all those vCenter APIs, right? And that's really all you need at the end of the day, but you're gonna have those customers that don't want to buy vSphere. They don't want to pay for licenses, right? The VTax. We're back to VTax again, right? 10 years later. So what we want to do is make the experience universal. So whether you're using our HCI platform, whether it's FlexPod, let me go back. All right, same thing. Or whether it's just VMware, the experience for us is going to be universal, right? It's all about the setup that you do under the covers. Now, if I had pre-configured this with an actual installation, which I plan to do on stream very soon, make sure you come watch if you guys haven't seen it yet. Twitch.tv/datacenterdude. Excuse me. Once you have this installation there, you just pick it from a list. Now, this can be geolocated so that you're going to tie to, it's all about the design, right? It's how you name it. This can come into play. You can have one in Chicago, one in Los Angeles, one in New York, one in Miami, whatever. But you just pick where you want us to orchestrate down the cluster. You choose the node type and you hit go, right? Same thing applies for VMware to HCI. We're anticipating all of these to be VMware environments, regardless of whether it's FlexPod, HCI, or VMware itself. I will tease that we are doing some early work with UCS Director around being able to do bare metal service profiles for Kubernetes nodes. So I'll dangle that little carrot out in front of you and just say, hold tight, we're working on it. There's a lot of questions around bare metal as well. It comes up in every single conversation if we support it. There's also work being done for reserved instances and things like that in the cloud to be able to take advantage of some of that above and beyond EC2 and Azure VMs and Google VMs, right? So while that's spinning up, let me jump over to a different, let me just go incast here, and we can get out of this. Oh boy, all right, so it's put me on the spot. .com, live demos all day. All right, cool. So I'm gonna jump over here to this other one that is a pre-provisioned environment. It's got a few different clusters running on it already, but you'll notice that they're a little dated, right? We show a lot of information in this one little strip for each cluster here. I got access to my kubeconfig file that I can download and never have to touch this again. I can just go off into VS Code or whatever tool, Vim if you're a sadist. You can just work in there. You can grab the Kubernetes dashboard directly. You can, look at all of your inventory of everything. You can create worker node pools. Now, this isn't taking anything away from kubectl or any other functionality that you'd get. All of that still works. But if you like the UI experience, you're really going to like the way that we do a lot of this stuff. I can see all my deployments and services. I can see my Istio rule sets. I can see all the solutions I have running on here. Oh, and I'm backing it up with Heptio Arc to S3 every day. Great cluster detail view here, but it's dated, and I'm getting this little upgrade button up here. If you've never upgraded a Kubernetes cluster before, it's not for the faint of heart. It can be, at least it's gotten better over the years. But what if you just had one button you could click and step up the upgrade and go? And if you've got multiple master nodes, it's going to be a completely non-disruptive upgrade for you. That's really the only prerequisite, all right? The guys at StackPoint that is now NKS have taken a lot of time and spent a lot of care and feeding on making sure that this is a 24/7, 365 type of operation. And a lot of the ways that I viewed Kubernetes before this, they've changed my mind on a lot of things. They've taught me that even worker nodes themselves can be as ephemeral as the containers that are running on them. So a lot of the questions that come up around patching, how do I do a security patch on a worker node? You don't. You spin up a new worker node with the latest releases all on it, and you decommission the old worker node. And it's just it's a different approach to the way that I've always looked at things, right? The last thing I want to do here is give you a little teaser of what the new UI looks like.
So I noticed it didn't offer you an upgrade to 115 or 116 though.
Because we do it in steppings, basically.
Okay.
So
you'd
this
have
one
to
is
go through those in order
Right.
to get offered.
Right. We don't want anybody jumping from 113 to 115 or even 116 right away. So it is a multi-step process if you're that far behind, which is good to know because that's probably where you're going to be running if you're in the cloud right now. If you're running EKS, AKS, or GKE, all of them are 113, 114-ish, right?
Very well.
So which is unfortunate because you're missing out on a lot of features and functionality that you're getting in some of those newer versions of Kubernetes, right? 114 brought forth Windows nodes and .NET app support, and 115 was a massive cleanup of the whole cluster admin side of things. So a lot going on in Kubernetes in the last couple of releases. So I hope they accelerate their adoption of those newer versions.
I've got an orthogonal question.
Okay.
Is there any dark mode? This bright white thing still.
I know.
Yeah, I mean.
I know.
Is it
I
dark
almost
mode?
made a joke about that in my presentation, but not yet. But they're probably watching. And
Is there a feature? I mean, there's got to be a feature request for dark mode.
Yeah.
'cause
Yeah.
It's a constant.
Again,
thing.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's unusable. I mean,
so that ends my presentation. I'd like to introduce you guys to something that we've been working very, very hard on for the last 2 or 3 months. And if you've seen NKS in the last couple of months, we've been doing UI focus groups meetings every other week. We've been working our way through this. We wanted to make it more enterprisey and familiar to people that might be operating these kinds of environments, as opposed to the hiding all of the functionality under submenus and trying to be cool about it. This is the new NKS. And I'm happy this went to production yesterday. So it is not completely feature complete from version 1. They're still doing a lot of UI stuff, but it's fantastic. And it works great. You now have everything exposed in a left-hand menu via workspaces, projects. Some of the things I'm short on time, so I want to wrap up here really quick. But apps, the ability to build apps and projects directly into this. This isn't just about building and tearing down Kubernetes clusters. The other entry vector to this is for your DevOps teams to come in and build projects and to be able to deploy those on a schedule, operate Canary and Blue-Greens through Istio rule sets and schedule those if they want to. Non-disruptive operations and deployments through Kubernetes. And all of this functionality is not only going to be taken advantage of by Fabric Orchestrator, but it's going to be leveraged as well for other things. So the ability to create projects as well as clusters, all of it ties into the workspaces functionality. We're even bringing the ability to have your own private registry. And if you work in containers and you work in software development, you understand what a big deal that is. So we are all in on Git, just for the record, but we're also bringing some of the Git remote functionality directly in so that we can basically have your developers work in their IDE of choice and just do Git pushes to your own private registry. So you don't have to go out to GitHub. You don't have to set up a big GitLab environment if you don't want to. All right? Much more to talk about with this, but I want to make sure that I give some time for questions at the end. I'm already over time, it looks like, so should we just wrap that up? Questions?
One really obvious question.
Yeah.
The first part of that, what we talked about, was all data, was all moving what you do as a traditional business, managing data, helping people move it to the cloud, etc.
Yeah.
And then we go on completely to application orchestration, almost like a second set of, or a different set of businesses within NetApp. What is the long-term goal of having
What's the through line?
Well, because, where else do you go next if you're doing that,
Sure. So the vision goes back to Fabric Orchestrator to tie it all together. The vision goes back to, this is one of those, this was a strategic acquisition we made a little over a year ago of StackPoint Cloud and just the evolution of it. And I really just wanted to, this wasn't supposed to derail the previous conversation of philosophy. I just wanted to drop some cool tech on you guys here at the end.
And it's all good.
And show you the new UI and where we're going with it.
Break it.
Let me put this back over here.
Thanks.
I get that, but if I'm an enterprise and I want to come along and take this,
Yep.
majority of my stuff might still be in virtual machines.
Sure.
That there's no part of that within this discussion at all. It's all about the microservices / containers type side of things. So I just sort of see it currently as a separate business, and I don't see the data management piece and this piece coming together other than this driving some of the data management functionality.
So the thing that I'm short on time for is all great points. The thing that I'm short on time for is the Triton integrations, the things we're doing with persistence. We're working with Microsoft and their AKS platform to build some of that stuff for the persistence with Azure NetApp files. We have solutions that we build in here, a combination of CSI and our own hybrid stuff that we're doing with Trident, the ability to drop a solution, a Helm chart, onto an existing cluster, and we're simply changing the default storage class of the entire cluster to be Cloud Volumes or Azure NetApp files. So yeah, I hear you. If I had another 2 hours, we could go through all of those things, yeah, but I hear you about the messaging and the consistency of that.
I'm sure Santosh will be fine to hold up.
Yeah, nobody cares about AI, right?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So yeah, any other questions? I kind of want to leave it there. Thank you guys very much for the time. Thank you all watching live on stream. I appreciate it. But yeah, if there's any other questions or anything, I'll be around, but I want to get out of the way and let Santosh have his time. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.